Hey guys, it's Mike again with the Garden Oasis channel. Today I'm talking about aloe vera and the many ways to propagate it and issues you'll find when you purchase them from the store. These I just purchased in the last 30 days and I see a lot of issues with them, things that need to be corrected so they'll be at their healthiest and happiest. And I'm going to go through the easiest to the hardest ways to propagate. And I'm not going to do the hardest because it just takes too darn long. But I know the easiest way to propagate it in this one because I can already see the secret. So it's raining today. It's a little noisy in the greenhouse. I'm going to move into my shop next to the greenhouse that has more insulation so we can hear the audio a little better. But that's what I'm doing today is I'm working with aloe vera. Okay guys, so these are the three plants I picked up recently. And one of these plants is going to be perfect for propagation. It's not this one, it's not this one, just actually this one. That will be the easiest plant to propagate. I'm going to slide these two out of the way and I'm going to try to bring it in closer so you can see this. And the lighting in here, I'm sorry, is not great, but it's just my shop, and visually to the human eye it's perfect, but to the camera's always difficult. I'm going to bring in a little bit closer. I think I'm going to magnify it so you can see a little better there as to what's so special about this particular pot. So the reason this particular plant is perfect for propagation, looks like somebody's already taken a cut out of it. I didn't. But anyways, the reason I can see it right away, you have the parent plant here on the back. This is the parent plant. This small area in the front, as I pull it forward, you can see that this is called a pup, or this is a baby aloe vera that came out of the parent plant and it's growing right here. So that will be a super easy aloe vera to grow from that one. I can just remove the soil. I can carefully separate it. They should not be growing in the same root system. They may be close, but this one looks like it's already well established. So I'm thinking there's two separate root systems here. So this one will be super easy to turn into a new plant. We're going to do that next, and I'll show you exactly what to do. Also, I'm going to go over the potting medium in all three of these looks far too much like just standard stuff you would find like potting soil. And there's a big problem with that because the reason that it has this type of soil in it is the grower doesn't want this to dry out between when it leaves their greenhouses to the time it's sitting for quite a while on the big box store shelves. So they put just regular soil in there. Well, that's not the ideal growing medium for aloe vera. And I'm going to show you my personal mix as soon as we go in there and find out how this thing is growing with the parent plant. All right, I'm going to find my gloves here and we're going to go to work on this aloe vera that seems to be very happy in that pot, but I don't think it would be if we don't change the soil out and go to my own personal mix. So I'm going to carefully remove this aloe vera plant so we can see what's happening. Now, despite a lot of plants, this has a lot of roots in it, but it's not root bound. But aloe veras actually don't mind being root bound. They sometimes can actually perform better when they're root bound. So I'm going to just carefully remove a lot of this ultra rich soil. It's really too rich for a aloe vera plant because aloe vera plants grow in arid, very poor soils, sandy, rocky soil. So this is something that the greenhouse is doing just to protect their investment in the plant, and so it will survive. I'm going to try to carefully remove this. Boy, it's really not wanting to separate. The roots must have grown together extremely well, so I'm just going to try to carefully go down as far as I can and remove this plant, the pup as they call it. And I'm just going to keep removing and removing soil to expose the root system. I'm trying to keep you in the camera's view, but as we're getting closer, there could be more than one pup. It looks like we have multiple ones, and that's great. So we can actually see, if you look right here, that looks like that could turn into its own plant right there. So I'm just going to carefully remove soil. I'm going to take this first pup and see if I can gently remove it from the parent plant. Oh, it's being difficult. I don't want to damage it. I just want to carefully take a look and see exactly how it's growing in here. This one's ready to come out. Now, if you look, this is a perfect example of a pup. You can see that this has got a small root system already established. This will go right into a small pot of our own proprietary blend of aloe vera potting soil, and it's really easy to make. Now this one was a little bit harder to break off, but it does have 2 roots on it, so we're going to be okay there. This larger third one is a little bit harder to get off, so I'm going to have to be really careful. Try not to damage it, but yes, I am getting some roots there. So if you'll look at this, there's our root system. That is our third. This is a really large pup. So as you can see, there's a lot of roots there. Okay, so that's 3 new plants we've gotten from this one parent plant. I'm going to continue to remove some of the soil because I want to use a very specific type of soil that's more akin to its native soil. And I think we've got the majority of it there. I see some fertilizer they put in there. So we're going to mix our soil so we can put this back into it. And I'll show you what I think is the perfect container for this root system. It's not a traditional pot like most people see. And it may be a little bit harder to find this type of pot, but it will be much happier in this type of pot. So I'm going to go move this out of the way and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, for me, I have tons of these pots. And the reason is I grow bonsai. And so this is a plastic bonsai training pot. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them on eBay. These were purchased from Dallas Bonsai well over a decade ago. So I'm not even 100% sure that Dallas Bonsai is still in business. If it is, it would be something like dallasbonsai.com. I think I looked and I don't remember them being still in business, but you can double check me on that. This is the perfect pot for growing aloe. It's very wide, but it's very shallow, and that's what they like. These plants like to grow in shallow potting media. So I'm going to mix up, I'm going to show you the formula for the potting media for the aloe, the ideal one, and we'll put it in this pot, and I'll show you where to put it in the yard and the ideal conditions for it. Okay guys, so what I'm doing is, this is my own personal mixture after doing some research over the years, many years ago, and this is what I believe to be the best potting media for the aloe vera. So we're going to do 2 parts perlite. Hopefully we got 2 parts perlite left because we're running low on it. And there's going to be a perlite storm now. Okay, that's roughly about one of my measuring containers. And here's another one. And I may have to go and find more perlite, but I think we have some on hand. Okay, running a little short. We're going to top it off with a bag of perlite. Sorry for the dust. I know it's possibly visible, but anyways, so we've got 2 parts perlite. We're going to do 1 part black cow, and that is the black cow manure that you find. Excuse me, I'm getting a little bit of a perlite dust storm there. This is the black cow you find at your local Lowe's, Home Depot, Ace Hardware, anywhere that sells plant supplies. We're going to put 1 part of the black cow in there. So 2 parts perlite, 1 part black cow, and lastly 1 part of the peat moss. I got some I need to break this up a little bit finer, but that's 1 part peat moss. I may have overdone this, but I just want to make sure I have enough for all 3. And I'm going to put all 3 of them in the same size pot. The two small ones maybe not, but the larger plants I definitely will. We're going to mix this. It's going to be extremely well draining, which is what aloe vera really wants. It didn't come from a rich forest environment. It came from a really humid environment, excuse me, a really arid environment with low humidity, dry heat. So we're going to continue to mix this, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, we've got this mixed, and basically this is just like a cactus mix. It's very, very light. There is some very rich compost in there from the black cow. I'm just getting a few of the larger pieces out. I'm just kind of go through. But this should be exactly what the aloe vera wants to grow in. Like I said previous, the original greenhouses are not going to put that in there because they want to keep some moisture on the plant, because it may be months before they get watered in between shipment and when it gets purchased at the big box store, which may mean that it dies before it gets purchased. And so they don't want to lose that stock, and so they just put it in some pretty rich soil. But this is actually what it prefers. Rich, but also very well draining, just an arid soil mix. So that's it right there. Okay, on these particular types of pots, the drainage holes are a little bit larger than I want them to be. Normally on bonsai, I would use like a mesh, plastic mesh around all four corners. But in this case, I'm going to use paper towels, and I'm just going to quadruple fold them there and put one in each corner so it can still drain, but we won't lose any of our soil mix. I'm just going to fold these up, put in all four corners before we add our potting mix. We just want to make sure we don't lose a lot of the mix, because perlite will drain really quickly. But this will allow water to pass through it. It will stay in place for a long time, and we may want to repot it at some point, so these will dissolve over time. Okay, so we have our way to prevent the soil from draining out. We're going to take our mix and carefully pour it in over the paper towels. And once again, I'm creating a massive dust storm here in my shop. I'm going to have to do some major cleaning. Okay, I'm not going to fill it all the way to the, I'm not going to fill it all the way to the top, because I'm going to press it down. And we've got to leave room for the root system of the parent plant we just took. So I'm going to pull that back. Now the root system will spread horizontally. As you can see, it's kind of going out in all directions. But I want to make sure that it's deep enough so it doesn't fall over. These plants tend to be really heavy, top heavy. So I'm going to put that in there as far as I can. I may have to use a support. And that's why I think we've made a mistake there. We need to pull back more. I don't think we can get it deep enough with that much soil in it, so I'm going to try to get this a little deeper. This is really a massive root system. So let me kind of redo that. In this confined space I'm in, it's really hard to work. The greenhouse has a lot more room, but as I said earlier, we're looking at a lot of rain today. Okay, I'm going to pour that back in. Maybe it'll be a little bit more stable. Sorry, I know that popping noise is super loud on the mic. Okay. And let's see, we're going to just compress that down so it'll be able to stand on its own. One thing I use, if it doesn't want to stand, I've got some bamboo skewers that I can put in to help support it, but I think this will be okay. All right, let me just push it in there. Also, another thing, and I have some handy here, I'll try to show them to you. I've got some large stones, and that's another thing you can use. It's pretty stable, but in a little bit of a windstorm, it might blow over. So I think a few stones would look nice in the pot, and so I'm going to go get those and put it in the front, and we'll move on from there. So before I add the stones, which are going to help stabilize the plant, I'm going to put in about, I'd say about maybe ½ inch of finely shredded pond bark. Now at Lowe's, you'll find this in a large bag that says soil conditioner. I'm not sure about Home Depot. I've never actually seen it there, and I've never seen it at my local Ace Hardware. So the primary place where I buy this is at Lowe's, and I'll show you what it looks like. I've talked about this many times in other videos. It's extremely finely shredded pine bark, and so I'm going to put that around the plant. It's going to help retain moisture. The plant will stay happy. Although we want it to be well draining, we don't want complete dehydration if we should forget to water, or if we have a long dry spell with no rain. So this plant may stay in this particular pot for years. So I'm not really decided what's going to happen to it, but I just want to make sure it's healthy and happy. Okay, now we've got that ½ inch layer of pine bark. I'm going to compress it down, and then I'm going to go in and add these large river rocks. You can buy these from landscape supplies. You can also get them in bags at the big box store as well. But I think it's a great look for the plant. It kind of makes it look it's in its natural setting. So I'm not going to go away to the edges, but I'm just going to kind of put it around. So if we hit it too hard with a hose pipe, or maybe there is a large windstorm that blows in or something like that, a tornadic weather, this will help stabilize the plant. And so, like I said earlier, I just think it's a great look. You can kind of rearrange the rocks however you like them. And so to me, it just looks more natural. And there you go. So that is our parent plant for our pups. So it's ready to go outside. I'm going to lightly mist it. I'm not going to heavily water it. And here's why. You want the plant to feel like it's under a little bit of stress, so it'll send out more of those pups. It may send it out in this area. I may have to move the stones back. But for now, I just want to stabilize it until it gets more root growth and it can stabilize itself. So eventually, these rocks may have to be moved out. I'll keep checking to see if I see any small pups coming up around it. But this is more of a decorative thing if you're not wanting to keep propagating this plant. So again, that's just for looks. Okay, we're going to start by putting in our paper towels, and we may only need one on each side. I think we can do that. I just don't want the perlite falling out every time we water it, which can happen. I've seen it happen many times with bonsai. So we just want that to act as kind of a filter, and water will go through that quite easy. Okay, and it'll eventually dissolve. It's not going to stay like that forever, but until we get ready to put in another pot. If we see a lot of soil washing out of it, then we'll definitely want to go in and use something more permanent. I've got some plastic meshes that I use for bonsai. I just don't have any handy today, so I'm just doing an alternate way of doing it. So this is our first pup, planting it. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to put all 3 pups in this particular pot because I want to move on to another way of propagating. So I'm going to put the largest pup on the right side and do a little bit of compression there too. Okay, here's our largest pup right here. That was the one we took off from the side of our parent plant. We're just going to put that back in. Compression. We want this to have something to grab onto. So if the soil is too loose, it's too airy, it's going to fall over. Our second pup isn't our smallest, but that's it right there. We're going to put that in one corner and just try not cover it completely, just the bottom ½ inch, and just do some compression so the roots will be a little bit more stable. The last pup is really the smallest one. There's almost just 2 small roots there. So we're going to carefully put that there. Also do a little bit of compression. We'll check back on this plant 30 to 60 days from now before our frost hits. This will not stay outside. It needs to come inside because I'm in zone 7, so it does get, we do get some winter lows here. I think last year we hit 8 or 7 degrees, so it was really bad. Okay, I'm going to top this with some of the shredded pine bark. 2 reasons I like doing this. I think it makes it look better and holds moisture. And if you blast it too hard with a hose pipe, this might help retain some of that perlite. That perlite is so light, you can just knock it out of a pot easy if you've got a high percentage as this is, this cactus-like soil. So I'm just kind of spreading that around. And there we go. And I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm not going to put rocks all the way around it. I'm just going to put them behind it because I want these to grow larger, so I don't want to inhibit any growth by putting too many rocks. So on this one, I'm just going to put one behind that so it can kind of be stabilized. The really small one, I'm going to do the same. Just kind of find something it can kind of lean up against. And lastly, let's see if we can find a good rock there. Thing that looks kind of like you'd see in a desert environment. Okay, well, that's not too good, but we'll put it there. Okay, so there you have it. That's our 3 pups. Those will become their own plants. I'm going to misspray them. May water these 2 on the left side a little bit heavier because I want to make sure they have a good chance to survive. But that is the easiest way to propagate. That is the easiest way to propagate the aloe vera. We're going to go into the second way of doing it, and there's 2 more beyond that, but I'm only going to do 2 today, but I can talk about the other 2 as well. So there's a few things I want to say about those pups and propagation and growth. So the pups, or offsets as they're sometimes called, are always going to emerge at the base of the plant. Like I said earlier, they sometimes will share in the very beginning of the stage of that pup forming is sharing the same root system, but they will eventually form their own. Good drainage is always critical. And so to produce pups, if your soil is not properly draining, they're not going to produce pups. So that could be a reason that you're not seeing any new plants being produced. The ones that we're potting up, you might see new pup production in 6 to 8 months. So that is a possibility. These will, as the plant gets older and very large, some people have very large aloe vera plants and they produce no pups. It's just because of age. Once they get really old, that type of reproduction just slows down and it doesn't produce any more pups. So the plant is maybe just going to be in that state for a long time. If you overwater, that can also prevent new pup growth. So you don't want to, this doesn't need to be wet. This feels really wet to me and it came from the store exactly like this and I haven't watered it today. So it's been either recently watered or it's being watered too much. The new pups you put in, as I demonstrated before with the stones, they may need support. So you'll need to do that. Sometimes a bamboo skewer, you can break it in half and stick it behind it and put a bread towel on it to kind of help it support if it's falling over. After you put the pups in, you can lightly mist spray them, but don't heavily water them. Wait 1 week to allow that, the aloe vera plant will see it as a need to put out new roots. If there's too much water, it may not do that and it may just kind of stagnate. So you want to lightly water with almost a mist spray and allow the pups to realize, oh, we need to send out new roots so we can get to that water we need. Okay, we're going to talk about pruning an occasional leaf. That is also a good idea. Pruning an occasional leaf will cause stress on the plant and it will send a message to the plant, I need to produce new pups to be able to stay in existence. So that's just kind of a thing that's really great for these plants. If you cut off a leaf, don't cut off all of them at one time. Just cut one leaf, wait a while, and see if it produces a pup. So that is some things that can encourage pup production by doing those specific things. Okay, guys, so this is our second, sorry, I know I'm hitting the camera there. Okay, guys, so this is the second way of propagating the aloe vera plant. We're going to remove the soil again and see what we can do here. This is going to be from a full leaf and it requires a little bit of surgery here. So we need to be able to see what's below the surface. And I think I can do this. It may be a little tricky. Some of these don't look too happy. I just think it's too much water and the soil is not right. But I'm just going to remove most of that. And we can do a little bit of surgery to do the second form of propagation, which is propagating from an individual leaf. So I just want to clean up this mess before I start working. And yeah, that looks pretty good. I think I can make that work. So let's move on with propagating from leaves. Okay, guys, there's a few things you need to do this type of propagation, and we're going to propagate from the base of each one of these leaves. You're going to need a really sharp razor blade that's been sterilized. I use Listerine, and then I usually wipe it off. A Listerine, or if it's generic counterpart that you can find. If you've got a really good pair of fine cutters where you can clip it off, you could possibly use that. You can't use your regular garden shears or just a box cutter. So I'm going to use this box cutter and carefully try to remove this right here is what we're trying to get to. We're trying to do that so we can turn that into a whole new plant. I'm just going to carefully cut down so we can remove this. Now, this is exactly what we're looking for. Now, this particular leaf doesn't look too happy, but what I want to show you, let's see if I can zoom in a little bit there. This right here is exactly what we're looking for. We want this part of the plant. We've got our leaf, but then we've got the part that's going to produce the roots right there. So if you can, I'm not really good at holding this to the camera, so that's what's going to produce the roots. So we're going to go through, let me put it back on normal magnification. All right, we're going to go through and let's see if we can find another one. So I think we need to do this one next. I'm just going to cut that with our razor blade. Probably should be wearing my gloves, but it's kind of hard to do. This also will produce another plant. I'll be planting that directly in the soil. Okay, that's 2 plants. And I will follow this up with a YouTube short demonstrating the leaf production. Could be a while, so please don't get mad at me. third possible plant. Your root system is going to come out of that right there. So that's possibly 3 plants. And let's see, and if you know anything about succulents, they can grow pretty well. Okay, now we're cutting this off. Let me see if I can remove that carefully. I'm hoping I'm still on camera. Oh, that one's being a little difficult. Let me see if I can do a little bit more cutting around it. Okay, now we're removing that. This one's a little bit harder to get off there, so I'm just trying to keep it in the camera lens. That's why I would normally be doing this outside where you could see, but like I said earlier, the rain is being really tough today. Okay. All right, I'm gonna need to do a little bit of cleaning on that. I'm just gonna clean that up by cutting it just a little bit to kind of straighten it out. These are also kind of dull. So that's where your roots are gonna form, right there at the base of that. And I'm not gonna take them all because I wanna replant this and let it continue growing. That's our new plants right there. So I think I'm gonna take one more and just cut from the opposite side. Here's the side that you're collecting the leaf from. The opposite side is your leaf grows around like that. So you're going to run your blade down the left side, the opposite side of the leaf, and just carefully try to take it off. It doesn't always want to come off too easy, but the important thing is you're getting this white part. That's where your roots are going to produce from. I'm going to clean that up just a little bit. Okay, that in itself will produce a new plant. That is the second way of propagating. And we will put this back in another container or its original container, and that way we'll just let it continue to grow. We've stressed the plant, so it might start sending out, if it's old enough, it will start sending out its own pups because it's under stress. So that's the ones that is the leaf propagation method. We're going to go ahead and put these in a good soil mix, and so that is the second way I know how to propagate aloe vera. Okay, before we start working on our leaves, I'm going to repot this one in our special blend of aloe vera soil. I'm just going to dig down as far as I can. Try not to disturb the roots too much. And let's see. Just going to compress down. Again, they don't like to grow traditionally deep. They normally grow horizontally. So we're going to press that down so I have something to grab on. I'm going to put a rock in here to stabilize it, which if I can find that. There we go. That's going to help stabilize on one side. I'm going to put a rock on the back side. So that just helps stabilize the plant. I'm going to go in and see if I can find some more of the shredded pine bark just to make it look better and hold in moisture. All right. That's more for decoration and protecting the soil from whatever might happen, a massive rainstorm or something like that. So that we have taken the leaves off that. We're ready to work on that. I think I may need another stone there. It's wanting to fall over. They're really top heavy. They don't have a massive root system, so that's why succulents can just fall over so easy. In my garden window in my house, I have a box, I guess it's about a 3-foot box of succulents cactus that's been growing for over a decade with minimal watering and minimal fertilizer. So that's putting this one back in its pot after we've taken some cuttings from it, and we'll move on to propagating our individual leaves. Okay guys, so we are ready to plant the leaf, but we cannot just plant the leaf part. Some people say you can, but for me personally, I've never been successful about that, and that's why I'm not even going to try it. I want to plant the part that has the stem still attached to the leaf, and that's where I've always had the most success. I'm just going to touch it in the soil. I'm not going to bury it. I'm going to put in a bamboo skewer for support. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom of the bamboo skewer. I'm going to carefully tie this with a bread tie to keep it in a standing position. You can check in this area right here for new growth. That's where your new growth is going to come from. I'm going to just ever so lightly put a small amount of the pine bark on top. That's just to hold in just a little bit of moisture. Get another handful there. Just a little bit. I don't want to cover up too much of it because I want to give it plenty of ability to grow. So if we cover up this interior part, it's going to make it harder for it to grow. So we've got our bamboo skewer holding it up as a support. I'm probably going to cut this top off because it doesn't look too happy, but I wouldn't even try to root this. Some people say you can, but I have not had success doing that. The fourth way you can grow aloe vera is from seed. And so there is a point at which you can do that with aloe vera, but you're talking about another layer of difficulty. And it's just so much easier to look for the pups or to take the leaf cuttings. Those are my two favorite ways. So I'm going to finish this up and we'll finish everything in the greenhouse. Okay, same procedure. We want to make sure we have that. And I'm not going to cut this one off. It's got a little bad place at the top, maybe from too much moisture. But anyways, we're going to leave this part intact. Carefully set it in just sitting on top of the soil. Come in with our bamboo skewer. Now we compacted the soil so it'd be a little bit heavier. And so that way, so we've got another bread tie. We're just going to carefully tie this so it doesn't fall over. You're going to see growth in this area right here. That's what you're going to look. Don't pull it out of the soil until you see some new shoots coming out here. That could take a number of weeks, but that's what you want to do is you want to make sure that it's just in contact with the soil, not buried. Okay, again, I'm going to add some more of the shredded pine bark, just a little bit. We don't want to cover up that possible area that the new growth is going to come in. And that will help the soil stay a little bit moist, but really it's not terribly needed as this is such an arid plant. I've seen succulents just in my garden window. I've seen a succulent fall off and just be laying on top of the gravel that's at the top of the pot and actually start rooting just like that. So succulents are rooting, very good at rooting. So that's two. We're going to do the three small ones and we will show that now. Okay, these are so small, I don't think they need much support. So I'm just going to actually lay these across the edge of the pot like that and just make sure that the base is touching the soil. I'm going to do that on all three sides. Next thing, I'm going to come back in with just a very small dusting of the shredded pine bark. I don't want to cover that up too much because that's where our new growth is going to come in. So I want to be able to make sure I can see that. So that ready to go. We're going to put these in a semi-sunny area and just kind of keep an eye on them. They can tolerate extreme heat and extreme drought, so that's something we don't have to worry about them drying out. Just lightly mist them. I'm going to take them out in the greenhouse and we will be through for the day. Hey guys, thanks for watching today, and this is one of my favorite plants. It makes a great healing plant if you have a sunburn or if you have a cut or a small insect bite, and these are such great plants. They make a great house plant as well. These two will definitely be taken into the house this winter, and made into some house plants near an extremely sunny window. You don't want to put this on the north side of the house. You want to make sure it gets as much sunlight as possible. You don't have to water it very much, as all succulents are. Watering is just a minimum thing you do. You definitely don't want to overwater. So thanks for watching. I hope you'll like and subscribe. If you have any comments or advice, or if I did something that you don't think was the exact right way to do it, let me know down below. I'll be glad to respond and put in my input and see if we agree on some point. But anyways, have a great day.